Welcome to the podcast. We're so glad that you're here. Sometimes we curse like sailors while we have a beer. Sometimes there's graphic content, so watch for little ears. We can't be held responsible for what you're about to hear.
Hey!
From day one, you fought for your life, and you blew everyone away.
Hi.
Hi,
Welcome back.
we're back.
How many weeks has it been?
It's been a few weeks.
Like 4. I don't know. It's been a while.
Yeah, well, that roller coaster run, it's been a doozy.
It's been an experience the last couple of weeks.
So, I am Jesse,
I'm Alisha.
and we are changing the chances.
Hey, yo.
Welcome back, everybody.
If you've chosen to come back after this unexpected break.
What is it? What do they call it? A
Hiatus. Hey, look at that.
Yeah, so we're back from our hiatus.
Okay, this was not planned. Everything just kind of like went crazy all at once. So I guess the first place to start is, which is actually funny because the last episode was about COVID starting and all that fun stuff. And then Jesse got COVID.
I did.
He got the Rona.
I got the Rona.
So
After
2 years.
2.5 years, almost 3. I finally got it.
He did. So Jesse got the Rona. Luckily, Piper and I didn't.
Yeah.
We quarantined away from him.
I quarantined away from you guys.
So if anybody has been to our house that listens to this knows it was not easy because we don't live in a very big space, but we managed. And
I was locked away in the dungeon.
he really was. Where we do this podcast is the basement, which is a dungeon, basically. Nobody comes down here because it's not pretty.
I pretty much lived down here for 10 days.
He did. He lived down here like the troll in the dark. And Piper and I lived in the living room and her room, basically. Yeah. So that's how that worked out. So anyways, in true Piper fashion, because as in when COVID hit us in the first place, we are quarantined off from the world because Jesse's got it and we're trying to make sure we don't have it and we're not giving it to anybody. And of course, we aren't seeing people. We are locked away. And yet, Piper gets sick. Again, how is this a pattern? We cannot keep her locked away because apparently that is when she gets the sickest.
Which is so weird because, we've got the hand sanitizer and, we try to be as careful as can be.
But that's what I'm saying. It's only when we're away from people.
I don't know.
What is that? Anyways, so Piper ends up with a fever. I'm managing it because it's just me because I don't have Jesse to rely on because Jesse's sick. So, I manage it for a whole day. The next day, I FaceTime with Jesse and he's like, she looks terrible. She probably needs to go in. And I'm like, okay.
She had no color. She was white as a ghost. And
she gets that way when she's sick. She did. It was awful.
And then you could just see it on her face too. She was miserable, super whiny.
Yeah, it just was awful. Awful. So honestly, at that moment, I assumed she caught
what I had.
Yeah.
The Rona.
I assumed that's what she got because it made sense because we're not seeing people and yet she's sick. So it made total sense.
Because unfortunately, I'm still in the house, but
yeah,
we were still doing what we could.
Yeah.
Alisha would literally bring me food at the edge of the stairs and leave it there. And, I would text her, hey, I'm hungry. Because, I didn't even want to go in the kitchen and touch anything. And we both agreed, that's best. And the only time I was upstairs was to take a shower and go to bed.
Yep.
And you slept on the couch.
I did. That's what I said. I lived in the living room.
Nope. So
because we were just maintaining space.
Yep. We sparingly used the bathroom, it was rough. It was rough. So yeah, naturally we thought she got corona.
Yeah. So since she was not doing well, unfortunately, I told Jesse, I'm like, you need to put your mask on. We need to do this. You're going to have to drive us. I have to sit in the back with Piper. I got to watch her.
Because she had already I don't know if we mentioned it in a previous podcast, but she had already had an upper respiratory infection.
Yeah,
And
over Christmas. We talked about it when we came back. Yeah.
So she was already not even, like, she hadn't even been able to fully recover from that.
Yeah.
And then, this happens, and it just, sucked. So,
So we packed up, and
Alisha
drove us up there, dropped us off, literally at the door, dropped us off. Bye. Because, first of all, he can't come in when he's got Rona.
Yeah.
So we get there. I do tell him this is happening. It's probably this, would be my guess. They do the test. She's fine. She's negative. So they're like, clearly, they do all the blood tests, all the stuff. They can tell she's fighting something, but they don't know what because Piper can't tell us. So it's always fun.
It's always the guessing game. Guess who?
It was not the Rona. So then they're like, we don't know. So we're sitting in the ER, and as we're sitting there in her room and they're running all the tests, her eye starts to swell up. Just while we're sitting there watching it swell up before my eyeballs.
Her eyeball is swelling before my eyeballs.
So, I tell the nurse, and they take a look at it, and they're like, okay, that's weird. So what it turns out as...
Because you even texted me, or you called me, you FaceTimed me.
Yeah.
And you're like, I want you to look at Piper and tell me if you see anything off or different.
Mm-hmm.
And you showed me, and I'm like, what's wrong with her eye?
Yeah.
Like, it looks puffy. It looks like somebody hit her, or she got bit by something, or you know what I mean? Like, and you're like, yeah, okay, it's not just me. Like, I'm gonna talk to the nurses, and I'm like, yeah, something's up with her eye. Like, maybe she got bit, and she's sick. Maybe a spider bit her, because we're in Utah. We have brown recluses and black widows and stuff like that. And that was my first thing. Is it's like, well, if it's not corona, maybe she got bit.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, that's weird, but they take into consideration, because they have to take everything in consideration, because again, we don't know what she has because she can't tell us anything, and all we can tell
hurts, or my belly hurts, or nothing.
Her body's fighting something. So
because you did tell me that, what was it, her inflammatory markers were through the roof.
Which just means the body's fighting something.
It's just another way of saying, like, your white blood cell count is just...
So honestly, good thing her eye swelled up, because it gave them a clue to what was going on and what to look for. So she ended up having, it's called orbital cellulitis is the term for it, which really means basically she had a sinus infection that we did not know she had. Yes, she's been sick from her upper respiratory infection, but we didn't think anything of it because it takes her longer to heal and to get better from things. That's just normal.
Well, and it's also... Unfortunately, she usually has symptoms for a few days before we're able to notice, like, what is going, or she's having an issue that we don't know about because she can't tell us. Yeah. And it just festers. Yeah. Which eventually is what happened with this sinus infection.
Yeah. So that's where it is. It was a sinus infection that reaches an intense
level.
And then because your sinus cavity, if you guys don't know who's listening, they're basically all connected in your face. It is just a giant cavity that everything's connected. So what it did is it spread behind her eye, and that's why her eye was swelling up. And she had a
giant pocket of pus.
She did.
Like in
behind her eye.
Alicia's going to have to, we took pictures, and this poor girl, her face.
Oh, well, if anybody follows me, they've seen a lot of pictures. I updated lots of pictures while we were in the hospital.
Her face was just so swollen. It looked like someone had beaten her, and she just looked so miserable and so uncomfortable.
Yeah, she definitely was just not good.
Like, within hours, to just see it within hours go from like a little swelling to kind of swollen to very swollen to, oh my God, has someone beat this child? Because the whole side of her face, like her eye looked like it was like above her eyebrow. Like it was so swollen, and it just broke my heart.
It was terrible. So they get us in a room because obviously we're not going anywhere.
There is a serious fucking problem going on here.
So
but at this point, they did not know it was orbital cellulitis.
So they said that they figured that's what it was. But you do have to go back for a test, a CT scan, to actually know for certain. So the whole thing with the CT scan is they inject this dye into you. And this dye is only good for 60 seconds. And I will tell you the story behind this in a minute. But this dye is only good for 60 seconds. And then they take a picture of your face. And the dye lights up whatever. I never saw the picture, so I don't know exactly what it looks like. But obviously they can see like it's blocked or it's whatever they see. I don't honestly know. But
because I remember you saying that her sinus cavities were just filled.
They were. With
mucus and junk that had essentially solidified and was pretty much concrete. Like they couldn't even suck it out.
Oh yeah, no, it was terrible. Yeah.
And
I feel like it was concrete. Yeah, like dumped in her face. It's awful.
Because you were like, yeah, it's even the suction can't help her. Like nothing can get this out.
No. So that poor girl, she couldn't breathe out of her nose, and you can't get it out because it's like concrete in there. So
that just left all this pus and mucus and shit just festering inside her face. So,
they start on antibiotics and stuff. You got to start somewhere. So the hospital, it's always fun because I was literally losing days. I don't know what day it was half the time because we were doing tests all hours of the night. Literally, her first CT scan was like at 1 a.m. in the morning. That's what you told me. And
they came and got us at 1 in the fucking morning to do a CT scan.
Oh my God. So Piper had been sleeping a lot when we got to the hospital, which is never good. It's scary when she sleeps that much.
Because Piper does not sleep.
Because she does not sleep like that. And so they're taking us down to the CT scan. She's had a million of them. I don't think twice about it. I'm like, whatever. So I walk down there with her. And this is definitely one of those parenting moments where you just want to punch somebody in the face. This technician, I did not like him. He was not nice. It is 1 o'clock in the morning. I haven't slept since God knows when. My child is sicker than sick. And seriously, he's very lucky that I'm as calm as I am because I do not like him. We go down there. He tells me, he's like, did they tell you that we're going to use contrast? I said, no, they didn't, but that's fine. Let's just do it. She needs it. Let's do it. And he's like, well, great. She needs to hold still for it. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't just ask her to hold still. That's not how this works. And he's like, because it's only good for 60 seconds. And if she moves and we don't get the picture, then I have to wait 12 hours. Okay, Piper doesn't have 12 hours to wait, first of all, because she is so sick that we need to get this figured out and done. And so I am just like freaking out on the inside. And this guy just keeps reminding me that she needs to hold still. And he was not nice. He was just not nice. Luckily.
Very crappy bedside manner.
Very, very crappy.
I wasn't even there. Just from what you told me, it was like, seriously, dude?
It was awful. Even the nurse was like, that guy was not nice. I'm like, no, he was terrible. Luckily, they got the picture. Hallelujah. And they confirmed what they thought it was. So the treatment for this is antibiotics, of course, but they take you back into surgery and they use the picture, the CT scan that they got, and they go up your nose and through your eyeball, your swollen eyeball, to meticulously clean out all those spaces.
Suck out all that concrete junk
and
pus.
It's very tedious and it's very hard because these spaces aren't very big. They're tiny. They're tiny little passageways that connect all through your face, and they're meticulously trying to clean them all out. We did find out she had a deviated septum, which we thought she had. So they fixed that. Piper got a nose job while she was there. That's the joke. So we did that. She went into surgery, came out.
She looked rough.
Oh my gosh.
She looked like a fighter.
Yeah, she had like dried blood all over her face.
Dried blood all over her face. Her face is still swollen as shit. Bruised.
Just poor girl. This poor human being. So she comes out. They say that she was really struggling to wake up from anesthesia, which she had been sleeping the whole day before. So I wasn't surprised. she came out and she went into surgery late, like
Oh,
at
yeah.
9 o'clock at
Yeah,
night.
like 9.
Again, see, there are no time boundaries in the hospital. She goes in at, 9 o'clock at night for surgery. I'm like, ugh. So she comes back to the room, and she pretty much sleeps the whole rest of the next day. Again, she does not sleep this much. It's scary. We have to be very conscious. We've had very bad experiences when Piper sleeps this much because it's not right. Something's wrong.
Well, and then with the infection being so close to your brain.
Yes, and that was a huge deal because this infection, like you said, because it's so close to your brain, can actually travel to your brain and kill you.
Yep.
Which is terrifying.
And then they got to be really careful when they're cleaning it because your orbital socket, that's why you can be killed if something goes through your eye. Like, it's straight into your brain.
Yeah, that's a possibility. They can. You can.
Like, while you're cleaning it, you can mess things up too. So
she pretty much slept all day. And, this isn't the first time this has happened. We just hanging out watching. That's what we do. But, of course, then Piper's breathing drops.
Thanks.
And her heart rate spikes, and she's non-responsive, which is why we're scared when she sleeps, because this has happened before. This is not new.
And when we say non-responsive, I mean, she's not responding to touch, sound, sensory, and pain markers. Like, they have a thing that they do in the hospital, and it kind of sucks, but it lets them know that you're still there, kind of, and they squeeze the top of your fingernail. They press down on the top of your fingernail. And if you've ever had it done to you, it doesn't feel good. Like, your body will naturally
pull back,
flinch and pull back, try to get away from it. So when you do that to someone and their body is non-responsive, their own body doesn't even try to get away from it, that's no bueno. So Piper was non-responsive.
Yes, which is obviously never good. So they take her to the ICU because she needs to be watched more closely because they don't know what's going on. Again, this is all happening at night. This is a whole other night. I'm literally not sleeping because we're doing everything in the middle of the night. Oh, I don't know why that's a thing, but it is. So they take her to the ICU, and it was terrible. There's 500 million doctors in a room trying to decide what they need to do because they don't know. They did decide to intubate her, to give her a breathing tube because she wasn't doing awesome. So that was awful.
And I still couldn't go up.
No, because you still had the Rona.
And all of this is going on within the first 10 days of me having the Corona. So I am legitly stuck at home, locked down in a fucking dungeon, just going crazy because I can't be there for Piper. I can't be there for Alisha. I can't even, I can't go to work because I've got Corona. So I can't even do that to get my mind off things and keep money coming in because, unfortunately, I didn't get Corona pay. My current employment does not qualify for government assistance and reimbursement. So I just ate it. My job was still there when I got back because they can't fire me for that. But I didn't get Corona pay or anything. And I just sat here and stewed pretty much because it sucked.
Mm-hmm. I can't imagine.
It did suck, big time.
I believe you. And
I felt bad because I knew you were up there by yourself. Your mom went up and saw you, and
yeah, I
Katrina
later
went up and saw you too, didn't she?
Later.
Okay.
This is only day 3 into this whole. I don't even know.
It was 3 weeks. It was 3.
We were there 10 days. I think you're confusing that we were stuck at home.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, it was 3 weeks of not being around you guys and not being home.
Oh yeah, no, it was awful.
Yeah, everything
between you getting Rona and then going to the hospital. Yep. Yeah, we didn't see you forever. Yeah, so she was in the ICU. I was a disaster. I won't go into it because I can't talk about it because it'll make me cry. So it was awful. We finally got to come out of the ICU. She started doing a little bit better. I took her off the breathing tube. Unfortunately, so we got to come out of the ICU, which was great. But unfortunately, she was not actually getting better. Her face still looked terrible. And we just kept telling the doctors, like, that it's not getting better. I can, and it's crazy because they take test labs every day and they watch inflammatory markers and stuff. And like, all of her numbers look great. And I said, fabulous. She does not.
Physically, she still looks sick, miserable, out of it. And like, we expected some bruising and, like some swelling from surgery. Swelling should go down, not go up.
Yeah, and that's what it did. We had one good day where we were like, oh, okay, maybe we got over the bad stuff. Maybe we're going in a good direction. And then it's like she just tanked again.
Yep.
And so we talked to the doctors and I'm like, I don't care that her numbers look good because she doesn't. She's not okay. And she's back to sleeping again. Like, clearly.
All the time, sleeping all day. It's like,
this is not a thing.
This is not okay. This is not her baseline.
So they put us through the CT scan again. Guess what? In the middle of the freaking night with the same stupid guy that did the last one. And it's so funny. So
didn't you say he had someone else?
So this was the thing. He must have called up and talked to the nurses because the nurses are like, they're wondering if she's going to hold still, if we need to sedate her. Okay, this girl's been sedated so many freaking times already. Like, putting her under again is terrifying. Plus, and I'm like, but she's not going to hold still. I'm like, she's not going to hold still. I'm going to tell you right now, she's not. So they're like, okay. Then they get a call back and they're like, no, a different technician's there. And he's like, don't worry about it. So we get down there. The same stupid guy is there, but he does have like a partner with him. Okay, it's a CT machine. You can strap her in. Her head goes in a vise and you just put a thing over the top of her head. She can't move, which is exactly what they did. So all that grief that he gave me the first time, when all he had to do was use his damn brain and strap her in.
It's him being lazy and just not wanting to deal with it. It's
easy. I do it. I've done it so many times that I can do it.
Lazy. Didn't want to do it.
Anyways, so they do the CT scan. They see that there's some stuff going on. So guess what? Piper's going back into surgery. Yay.
So at this time, I had gotten retested, came back negative, and I've been, at home trying to keep up on things, feeding the cat, doing the laundry and all that and everything. Started going back to work, and I was able to come up for this surgery because her eye and her face and everything were still just so swollen, and she was just out of it, completely and totally out of it. But when she came out of this surgery, she looked so much better. Like, instantly.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They're like, well, she'll be bruised and this, that, and the other. But when we saw her, we're like, no, you don't even understand. Like, this looks so much better than when she came out of the first surgery.
Yeah.
Like,
it was night and day. I just went, I can't believe we waited 4 days to redo surgery because this looks a million times better. And her eye was still swollen, but she looked like she just did. You
don't even know how to
it.
describe it, but like you could just see it. Like, it was a different kind of swollen. Like, I don't even know how to describe it.
No,
but
you just have to see it. And
it was almost within hours started doing better and being more like herself. And it was like, that's what she needed. She needed another fucking surgery because apparently she still had some like festering dried blood, and because she was crying tears of blood. Like, she had this shit coming out of her eye. Like, it was like pus blood when she would cry come out of this infected eye. Like, it was horrible. So horrible. I felt so bad for this kid, and one of the doctors did end up saying, like, in adults, it's not uncommon when they if an adult gets this, to have to go in 5 and 6 times because for whatever reason, it's a very aggressive infection.
It is.
Once it's gotten to that point. He's like, with kids, I've had to go in, 3 or 4 times. So
so that was like
just
reassuring.
Kind of heads up, like, it's
and terrifying.
It's not uncommon. It can still suck because, it's surgery, but it's not uncommon if we have to go back in.
Mm-hmm.
Or the fact that we had to go back in this second time. But she did. She immediately looked better, started doing better. Her breathing was better. Like, they had to put stents in her nose.
Yeah, they had a stent in her nose.
Yeah, they had to put a stent in her nose, and because they had to go back in there and stuff, and they wanted to make sure that nothing like collapsed and it could drain and this crap.
Yeah, it was so that because what happened is when they fixed her septum, they have to go in that middle part of your nose, and it had filled with fluid and was causing the infection to be worse after the first time. So the whole point of the stent was they went in there, drained that middle part of her nose that had collected all that fluid and was creating an infection. And they put a stent in there because it causes pressure and holds it closed so fluid doesn't have a place to collect, which is what the stent's for. So they left that in for a day and then they came and took it out.
And then she still had like a little bit of gunk behind her eye and stuff. And that's why she was still swollen. But
well,
it was like
it was just blood. It was just dried blood.
Yeah, just dried blood.
There was no
there
new
stuff there.
There was no new pus, nothing. He'd cleaned all that out. It was gone.
Oh.
It was just blood, which he was reassured that this cleaning would do the trick because no new infection had come back.
No new pus had come back. That's right. But yeah, there was still shit there. There was still dried blood and shit that had to come out. And,
yeah. We still had to break it all back up. And this poor child just... But she finally was just on the mend, it felt like. Was doing better. So given how aggressive this infection is, she has to be on antibiotics for an extended amount of time.
4 to 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks, yes. And they are IV antibiotics. So yay us. Piper continually thinks we need to learn new skills, so we have learned a new skill. She had a PICC line placed. For anybody who doesn't know what a PICC line is, it is an IV, but it is a special one that they thread through your vein that goes up and it stops at the top. Stops at the top of your heart. This way, they last longer. Because when you put fluid and stuff through them, you can cause veins to burst. That's why they go bad and stuff. So these ones last way longer because you're
in a more heavy-duty vein.
Well, but you're pushing it through a tube, and then it's emptying out into your heart, which pumps it through your body. Because obviously your heart can handle way more fluid than a vein can. So they put a PICC line in. So we've had to learn how to handle that situation. And give antibiotics through it, which is fine. It's actually really easy. It's just scary because it goes straight to your heart. So if you get an infection, it will pump through your body quickly. And you can go sepsis.
In this line.
Yeah.
And flush it through into her heart.
Yep. Obviously, you can't put air into your heart. That's not good for you. So we have to watch for things like that. Otherwise, though, it's super easy. It's kind of a pain.
The task itself is not an issue. No, that's easy.
It's just the fear behind what can go wrong.
Because if you make a mistake...
Yeah, could be her life.
It could be her life.
It could be her life, yeah. That's terrifying. But the placement's more inconvenient for me because I have to pick her up. And it's on the inside of like her upper bicep is when the entrance point is. Because then the tube goes up in this vein up around your shoulder and into your heart. It's a thing. But so we've got to learn that, and we're going to be doing that for 4 weeks at home. Upside to that is they can also draw labs off of it, so they are taking blood once a week from her here at the house. We don't have to go back to the hospital for labs, which is awesome. They don't have to poke her. This girl came home with more holes and bruises in her poor body than anybody should because she was poked and prodded and
I hate to say this,
every day.
She looked like a fighter that was strung out because she just had bruises up and down her arms and her face is... I mean, it looks good now. Like, the bruising's settled
her face
down.
looks awesome.
Yeah, it looks good now, but, like, her face was still bruised. Her nose and cheekbone and eyebrow and stuff were still swollen, and then she was just riddled with bruises.
Yeah, over her whole dang body. So, that poor girl, she needs a break. we finally got to come home 10 days later. Yay! Oh my gosh, I hadn't slept in a bed for, I don't know,
It was like 2
two
weeks.
and a half weeks. It was so nice to sleep in my own bed. It was so nice.
It was nice to have you sleep in the bed with me.
If I ever complain about our bed again, I'm going to have to remember what it feels like not to sleep in it for 2.5 weeks. So things about PICC lines also is they can clot off, and that's not a good thing. So unfortunately, we came home 3 days into it. Piper's line clotted off. Yay!
Well, tell them why.
I mean, there is a whole reason. So I gave her an antibiotic.
It just randomly clot off.
No. It didn't just randomly clot off, but there was an air bubble in her line. I'm totally new to this, and I panicked because that's a big no-no. No, there shouldn't be air in there. How did it get there? I had her antibiotic hooked up to her. It was a whole thing. You can call a nurse to come out and look at it. I did. But this means I couldn't put the medicine in her line, heparin, which keeps her line from clotting off. It's the whole point of it.
Anticoagulant.
So between the time of me finding this air bubble and panic and calling a nurse and her getting out here, the line clotted off. So she couldn't do anything about it. They sent out a special drug that helps break stuff up like that because this happens a lot. Another nurse came out, tried to give it to her, was unsuccessful. So we ended back in the emergency department at 9 o'clock at night because sleep's overrated, apparently. Spent 5 hours there. Thank goodness, though, they fixed it. It was long, tedious process. Again, 5 hours, but they fixed it. And we got to come home at 2 o'clock in the morning. So that was awesome. Piper loved it. She didn't. That's being super sarcastic. She did not love it. It was awful. So, I mean, that's pretty much been our adventures for the last 2, 3 weeks. I don't know.
4 weeks.
Whatever we've been doing, that's what we've been doing. We have been just wading through sickness for weeks. And I'm over it. By the way.
Yes.
No more. Like, I have to say that, like, this hospital visit, like, definitely took me to my limits. And it's probably been a while.
It's been a while since she's had an extended stay.
And an extended stay, I think this is the longest one she's ever had. Usually she's out in 5 days. 10 days is, like, a lot. I don't think she's ever spent that long in the hospital since she got out of the NICU. So, yeah, it was a lot. It definitely pushed me to, yep. But everybody's fine. Everybody's good. We are home. Piper's happy.
She's doing better. She's still recovering. It's a slow process for her, but she is recovering. She's getting more vocal. She's more excited.
She is not going to school, though, because it cannot risk. One, she needs to get better, and two, she's got that line in her arm that I cannot trust. That
as awesome as the school is, I don't trust.
No, it's just
anyone.
It's just too much responsibility.
I'm like, it's just too complicated, in my opinion, and
they wouldn't have to do anything with it. It's more just like, you know, you can pull it out, it can break. There's lots of things that can go wrong, and that's not something I'm willing to leave in their hands.
Yep.
Call me crazy.
No, I'm just overprotective.
Yeah, no, that's too much. It's too much.
Maybe a little crazy, but yeah. I don't want anybody. I figure the less people there are involved, that's just less variance of issue. Like they're
well, agreed.
You know, that's what a lot of people don't understand is it's like, yeah, you know, you guys stay locked down and stuff. It helps alleviate those variants.
Mm-hmm.
And
you
know, it's just no, I'll be the crazy people on lockdown.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
That's
I don't
fine.
care.
I don't care.
I don't either.
I don't give a shit what your opinion is of me. Like,
agreed. Until you have to live it, you get no say in it. So that's it. I mean,
we just wanted to catch up and say hello and say we're still alive.
Hey,
we're
hallelujah.
You know, trying to weather the storm.
And hopefully we'll get back to our normal routine, our normal schedule of stuff. If you've missed us, I'm sorry. But, you know, we've missed all of you. We've missed
being able to do the podcast. And, you know, I mean, because
That's true.
This is something that's great for Alisha and I, and we really hope that it helps someone out there, but it helps us.
Or, you know what? Anybody who was kind of close to us, you know, who's close to us that kind of knew what was going on in the hospital, now you really know.
Yeah, you get a little more in-depth picture. And,
I did leave some stuff out. No, I mean, like, nothing with Piper. We hit all this stuff with Piper. I did leave all my emotions out because I can't.
Yeah.
Nope.
You can't do that. You even think about it and you start crying.
Yeah.
Can I just tell you?
You can. Feel free. Tell me away. But yeah. Nope,
Listen.
I can't. Just listen. That is mine. Back off. Get your own word.
Oh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I said. So thank you for coming back. Listening to our
rants and our
crazy-
raves and
I don't even know.
our roller coaster
Oh my
ride of a
gosh.
life.
I just don't. Yep. Mm-hmm. There are just no words anymore. It was crazy. I'm glad to be home. I'm thankful for all the support that I had in the hospital. I had a ton of it. Daily phone calls from people I love. Everybody wanting to give me food. I do eat in the hospital. People, I promise.
I'm glad you had a good support group. I was locked away in a dungeon and no one gave two shits.
It was about not giving two shits.
Sure
you-
glad I didn't sit down here and suffocate and die.
I talked to you every day.
Now I feel bad.
No, it just goes back to one of those things. Like, it's
The people follow the person who's sick.
exactly. And it's totally fine because Piper comes first and you need that support because you're up at the hospital and stuff. But
But the thing
dads
is,
get put back on the back burner.
I do have to point out though, did you reach out to anybody for anything?
This is also
Because you
true.
could have.
I guess I could.
You
have,
know that.
but I
mean, it's easy. You can pick up a phone also
I know.
and say, I need this. And anybody would have been happy
I know.
to
But
do
I didn't
anything
want
for
to
you.
bother anybody either. So I knew that.
What are you talking about? I think people like to be bothered. Do you want to know why I think this? Because people want to help and they don't know how to help and then they feel helpless. Again, food. See, this is the best way
That
to
would have
help
been great.
me.
Like that I would have been all over food. Been like, yes, please DoorDash something to me. I will go upstairs and open the door and grab food at my door. Like, so
Yeah.
maybe next time there is a next time if I get Corona, like maybe I'll think about that. Make some phone calls.
I hope not. Can you just not? Can you just not?
You know what? I'm really trying not to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I know 2 years in, at some point,
I'm
it was
like, I made a hell of a run.
You
2
did.
years, you know,
You did.
being out, dealing with people, fucking,
I know.
especially at my job when it all first went down because I was essential.
Oh, Lord.
Ugh. But, I mean, you know, now it's like you go back to work and you don't know who's being safe or cautious or whatever. So
It's
like,
just, guess what? It's just life now.
I know. And I would have never thought of it
Fortunately, it's just life.
unless I had a child because, you know, like whatever. But gotta try and be safe for pipes.
Always.
But we really appreciate anyone that was able to come back and anyone that just enjoys listening to our show because it does. It means a lot to us.
It does.
So
But I'm going to keep doing it regardless because
this is true.
I enjoy it.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, we'll talk to you later. I can't say same bat time, same bat channel because we have no fucking clue.
Everything's in disarray.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.